All right, so, sometimes when you're struggling, it's always good to go back to a word that God gives you. Like if you get a personal word, like from His written word, and that's something I've always tried to do if I really needed some clarity in my life, was I didn't want to just base my decisions off of a feeling, and I didn't want to just base my decisions off of something that I thought God was telling me. So if it was something very important, I would always ask God to give me a personal word from His written word, almost like something that would bring it some sort of clarity to me, and something I could hold on to. And I heard a pastor say one time that when you go through storms, if you have a vision from God's word to hold on to and go back to, sometimes it can help you make it through those storms. And I remember when I was praying about if I was supposed to start a church, or if I needed to start a church, or if God wanted me to come to Lake Charles and start a church. And I remember I'd been praying for about a year, and I was just kind of basing it off of feelings, trying to find an answer. But then I started to wonder if that was the wisest thing to do, if I was going to make a major decision like that. And I never felt like I was getting an answer. Every time it was like a year I was praying. I was just kind of pouring my heart out to God. God, what do you want me to do? Give me some clarity. Do me and my little brother need to go back home to Lake Charles and start this church? And Ryan told me one time when we were just tossing around the idea of if we should start a church, and this was 20 years ago in Lake Charles, he said, if we do, we should call it the Water's Edge. And I said, why? He goes, well, there's a cool Crowder song called Come and Listen, and it says, come to the Water's Edge. He goes, and Lake Charles sits on the edge of the lake, and he goes, God did so many cool things at the edge of the water in the Bible. And so I kind of tucked that away, and I thought, that's a cool name for a church, the Water's Edge Gathering, because Lake Charles is the lake city, And so I remember one night I was just really frustrated, and I was really hurting also too, because I was going through something in the ministry where I was at that didn't fit me well. It wasn't my vision, and I was trying to perform someone else's vision, and it wasn't really fulfilling my heart. And it was honestly creating a lot of confusion in my life. And so I remember one night I was watching Law and Order and I just turned off the TV and I said, God, I need you to tell me tonight. Tonight I need you to tell me from your word if you want me to go home to Lake Charles and start this place called the Water's Edge. And we hadn't done anything. And so I opened my Bible and I was going through a chapter at a time in my quiet time during that time, and I was going through the book of Luke. And I just so happened to be in Luke chapter 5 that week from my quiet time. And I didn't remember what was in the chapter, so I prayed that prayer for God to give me a personal word from His written word. And I opened up my Bible to Luke chapter 5, and the whole chapter spoke to me. The very first passage in that chapter says the first time Jesus met His disciples, the first disciples, Peter, James, and John, He met them at the water's edge. And that spoke to me. I was like, oh, well, is that a coincidence, It was really cool. But then after that, it said that God healed a leper. And I felt like God spoke to my heart and said, Tony, this is your ministry. Your ministry is to people who don't fit in. Your ministry is to people who've been rejected, to the lepers. And I knew I couldn't do that where I was at. And so I tucked that away in my heart. And then the next passage, Jesus called Matthew to be one of His disciples, and Matthew was a tax collector, and tax collectors were rejected. And I felt like God said, Tony, your ministry specifically is to the lepers and the tax collectors, people that don't fit in at other churches, people who've been hurt by religion, people who know nothing about God. This is what your ministry is for. And so I took that away in my heart. And then the very last passage spoke to me. Jesus said this. He goes, you don't put new wine into old wineskins because the old wineskins bust. He says you have to put new wine into new wineskins. And the reason why is because when wine begins to ferment, it expands. And if it's placed in an old wineskin, that old wineskin is brittle. And when that wine expands, that old wineskin would bust and break and the wine would pour out. So new wine had to be put into a new wineskin because new wineskins were very flexible. And I felt like God told me very, very clearly, Tony, your ministry is a new vision and it needs to be done in a brand new wineskin. It was like God spoke to me very, very clearly, like this is the vision. Don't try to do this at an established church. You have a new vision and it needs to be done through a new wineskin because there's no boundaries, there's no traditions, there's no religion there. You just have a wide open canvas to release a vision. So that's what we did, man, all the way back in 2007, September of 2007. We just released that vision. We met with 15 people and we started praying for about 6 months. Every single week we would pray together. And we had our first service in Cinemark Theater with only 15 people. We had a preacher, We had a band, and we had some nursery workers and some greeters, and that was it. In our very first service, 180 people showed up.
Wow.
Our third service, 250 people showed up, and we never looked back. But there were times when I questioned, is this something God really wants me to do? Is this something God wants us to continue? And a personal word through that was, every time I struggled, I could always go back to the word that God gave me.
Yes.
And I've also practiced that in my own personal life. If I've needed a personal word from God about something, anytime I've gotten that word from God, it's always helped me make it through the confusing times because, no, God gave me a vision and I can go back to that. Mm-hmm. So that's really how we got started in the word that God gave me.
Tony, I'm so thankful that you did start the church whenever you did, and the vision that you had. I'm thankful that you were obedient enough to do it, because the impact that it's had within the community is incredible and it's tremendous. I mean, we started with the church about 3 years ago, and it's incredible. You'll cross people in public, whether it be through business or Walmart or whatever, and then, hey, you guys go to Water's Edge, and yeah, man, we do. And just having the ability to talk to them about how the church has changed their life or how it's impacted them, or maybe a family member, it's incredible. I mean, all the unhoused ministry that we have here, the food pantries, everything that the Water's Edge does for the community is so special. And from my knowledge, it's really the only place that is like that. It's such a special, just a lighthouse for the community. In the Gospel of Matthew, it talks about us being the light of the world, and it's incredible to see that happening through the church. I mean, in so many ways. I mean, like I say, just running into random people, man, you guys go to Water's Edge, we'll have a conversation, and then that'll lead to, yeah, man, we're proud to go there. Yeah, we love that place. That's home to us. And just the community that we've met impacting the community has been incredible. So,
man, I love what you said about the lighthouse.
Yeah.
I'm picturing lighthouse on the water's edge. You know what I mean? when you look out and you see you follow, like the
That's
boats
right.
would follow the lighthouse to get to the water's edge. So that kind of ties in. I really love that. I love that.
That's what it feels like, because this is a place where we can all come together, no matter our background, no matter what we've been through, and just feel the love of Jesus and also become love like Jesus. We can do that for our community and be that place where they don't feel any type of way coming here. They feel welcome, they feel loved, and they feel encouraged when they leave here. And that's the coolest thing. I mean, before we got here, I didn't necessarily know what it meant to experience Jesus in that way. Just the freedom and the love. I'd never felt that before. So it's incredible.
It's kind of funny. I tell everybody our congregation reminds me of a carnival. It's just really different backgrounds and different, just diversity and then unity and all that. I think it's beautiful.
That's how it should be, though. I mean, look at the disciples. It's a collection of random folks who Jesus came together with and changed the world. I mean, completely it was just incredible. So I relate that a lot to the story of Jesus and how he was close to the brokenhearted and everybody that maybe felt pushed away. He was close to them. So I'm thankful that we get to be a part of it. I think
Absolutely.
It's cool.
Ryan, I am so grateful for you and Bailey to be coming here as long as you'll have, and I look forward to the many more years that y'all are going to be here.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. But that's thanks to the community within the church and the family that we feel like we're a part of now. It's really special.
Yeah.
It feels like the community's getting tighter inside the walls, too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree. I've been coming here since, Cinemark days. Probably the second year y'all were up and running.
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So I'd like to consider myself an OG, though I'm not an elder, I am an OG. But yeah, I remember the warm and welcoming feeling, like, from the beginning. I remember Mr. Josh Waters. He was my youth pastor at the time, and I remember just the warmness and welcomeness that I felt just from, like, him, like, walking through a door, and I definitely carry that with me. And then, once I got older and, like, I'm in here and I'm paying attention to Tony, it really is funny because, like, I really did, like, grow up, like, listening to Tony, so I think that's where I have a lot of my cool mindsets from.
Yeah. Thank you, Randy.
That's where it came from.
But I also, like, I remember watching my mom do everything. Like, Tara Ross was, Miss Water's Edge before I was Miss Water's Edge, I would like to think. But she always took initiative of things, and she really showed me what to be a boss lady is like. So I'm very grateful for that, but also her heart and stuff like that. So, and I feel like she got a lot of that from, listening to Tony on Sunday mornings. But I started the young adults group when 2 years ago, 2022, I think, 3 years ago.
Time flies.
Time flies. Time flies when you're having a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I remember being in a time where like I needed a community where I knew there was not going to be any kind of judgment. There wasn't going to be any kind of expectations or anything like that. But I also knew I needed some people that I could fully chase Jesus with. And so I started the young adults, and man, it has flourished since then. Not only has the young adults, but I feel like so many of our community groups have just gotten so much stronger.
I think the young adult group that you started kick-started the community movement.
Yes.
And I think it resurrected a lot of life in our church back,
and that's why
back
it's
into our
called
church.
The Revivalists.
Yes.
We brought a revival back in the water's edge, and I hope and pray that it continues to feed on, because as young adults, we'll grow into the women's prayer group and the men's prayer group, and it'll only grow from there. But yeah, the tight-knit family community that Water's Edge has created for me, not only from when I was a child, but to now in my adult life, has truly meant everything to me.
Joe, you've been helping me for a long time, my man.
Man, and I really, really love it, man. I tell you what, man, you remember the night, man, we were at a lock-in. It was probably the first lock-in I've ever been in with the church. We had the kids, and me and you were sitting out there. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning, man. And you looked at me, man, and you said, man, what's your heart for Jesus and all that? And I looked at you, man, with a straight face, and I just went, Tony, I have a heart for this church, and so do you. And it was real important to me that this thing that we have here, this carnival, lives on past me or you. Remember when I told you that? Yes. And I said, that's my mission, man. I want to bring people to Christ, but I also don't want this place to ever end. Me and my wife came years and years ago. It's so long I forgot how long. But we really wanted to get back in church, and
I married y'all.
You did.
That was fun.
That was awesome. But, hey, and we came back, man, and at the time, I was raised Catholic, she was raised Baptist, and we couldn't really decide on a place to go back, but we knew that we had to put Jesus in our relationship and in our lives. And her sister told us, this is weird, this is why we came. Her sister said, man, I can bring you to a church with the best band in town.
Facts.
Because she knew I loved worship, right? And she said, I'm going to bring you. Don't worry about it. Just come. If you don't do anything else, come and enjoy the worship. I said, cool. Man.
Forget the preaching.
It's a free
she loved the preaching too.
Yeah.
But she lured us here for the free concert, right? And so we get here, and it was really cool. We walked through the front door, and we really didn't know, hey, what's going on? But everybody was just so welcoming, and somebody walked up to us, hey, you want some donuts? And donuts? Okay, yeah, cool. We get some donuts, some coffee, and then we see people walking in the auditorium with the donuts and coffee. It's like, it's a cool place, man. So anyway, we come in and we sit down, and I said, nah, we're going for the worship. I want to get up front. So me and my wife, we come sit up front, and the worship was amazing, just like they said. It blew my socks off. But then this guy comes on stage and changes everything. And he changes everything, man. I don't remember what he was preaching about that day, but I felt like he was preaching to me and my wife, and we agreed, and we never stopped coming after that day. We came, and then another day, I'm talking to him, and I say, man, I need to get more involved, man. I don't want this place to die. I got to get more involved. He looked at me straight in the eye, and he said, well, then you need to serve.
Yeah.
And I thought about that for a minute. He said, that's how you're going to get the most out of it. You need to serve. And so with all that being said, with all of that, I learned that worship just wasn't about the songs I was singing. Worship is what you guys do, what the revivalists do, what the groups do, what we do in the community with the food. That's worship. Now, don't get me wrong, I love a good worship song, right? But the feeling that you get from serving others, the feeling that you get from helping people find Jesus, that's worship. Because God really wants us to be in fellowship with him and community with him. And you guys, again, like Tony said, when you guys started this group and all these groups started to flourish, that community came and we saw it and we still see it. I have the unique ability, I have the unique time and efforts that I get to do. I get to be with the kids. You guys get to be with the adults. Tony hangs out with the 55-year-old group, yeah. But I get to hang out with the kids. And to see, speaking of worship, to see kids lock in, raising their hands, worshiping Jesus, brings joy to my heart, man. You know, and when we go to camp and we see that it changes their lives and they give their lives to Christ, that's big. Yeah. And see, I love that I get to do it there. We get to do this, right? But I love that I get to do it there because what me and Tony talked about is making this place live on. Mm-hmm. And like you said, hey, those kids are going to the revivalists. Yeah. The revivalists are going to the 55 group and so forth and so on, to where it keeps flowing. And that way, when me and Tony ain't here anymore, this place will still be, and I feel like you guys will be leaders here, keeping the charge going and making sure that the Water's Edge keeps changing people's lives.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Amen.
This has been a really family discussion today. Mr. Joe leads our youth group. Jaden and Ryan lead the young adult group. They both help Joe with the youth group. You see them all the time on stage, making announcements, giving messages, lifting everybody up, and I appreciate and love them so much. I just want to thank you all for tuning in today. I want to thank you all for hanging out with us today and worshiping with us. Continue to stay tuned in for an amazing time of worship right after this with the amazing Water's Edge worship team. We cannot wait to see you back next week. We're going to start a brand new series, and we absolutely love you all.